My name is John Agasild. I'm a stand-up comedian living in Glasgow in Scotland. But I haven't always lived here. I was born and raised in Aberdeen in the northeast. I'm working on my next solo stand-up show, and I found myself writing and talking a lot about both of these cities. So I wanted to interview some other comedians about their hometowns, find out what they're like, why they left, why they stayed, and what home means to them. This is the Welcome Home podcast.
Can I crack open again?
Please do. Please do. Of course.
ASMR. Thanks for having me in your lovely home.
Welcome to my home. You think that this is? You were saying that this is maybe a replica of your actual couch.
I think the cushions seem very similar and familiar at once. Just the shape of the cushions and the feel of it. Mine's is a bit more. I think my L shape is maybe a bit more attached.
This isn't an L.
What is
That's
it?
a footstool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a footstool makes it an L. You've made your own L.
Yeah.
It's a homemade L.
Yeah.
Of
yeah.
sorts.
Yeah. I'm really struggling.
Sorry,
separating. I'm really struggling to separate L couch, which has connotations of success, comfort, with an L. You know, like just
One
accept,
day when
take
my
the
ship
L.
comes in, I'm going to have an L-shaped couch.
But you know,
Oh, you've made your own L, man, you know?
yeah. But it's like catching an
You
L.
made your own success.
Yeah. But I'm really struggling to separate the L and that one type of L from the other.
I guess there's differences, but to me, I love having an L. I love having a footstool.
Mm-hmm.
I love lying down when I'm sitting down, you know?
Yeah, it's great. I always have that.
Maybe
It's
I
got
could
blankets and
still
stuff.
fit if I don't want to put my feet up on the recorder, but I feel
Oh, we can just move the
I
recorder.
could just...
That's not fair. Just put that.
Is that good?
Just put that down there.
Can't really see my socks. I don't know if that's an issue.
That's fine.
It's also a little bit...
It's a bit like, you remember when Lily Savage used to interview people in bed in the Big Breakfast?
Yes. I think Lulu Popplewell's
Yes, all
doing
too
that in
well.
England just now. She's doing a bed show. Joan Collins did it as well. She had all sorts of
She do it
cunts on
before Savage?
No. This was a web series type thing. I'm saying
Oh,
Joan
in bed with
Collins.
In bed with... You're saying Joan Collins?
No, Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers.
Who's Joan Collins?
Joan Collins
Author?
is a brunette author. Just
Sexy
sort of-
author.
Sort of an old sexy woman.
Yeah. Chandler's mum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That type of thing. That's what they were going for there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew Perry,
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
to a real guy.
to a real
Died as
one.
we all would like to, in a jacuzzi on painkillers.
Mhm. known for his friendships, I guess.
Known for his friendships. Known for the whole 9 yards franchise.
The whole nine. You know, what was I listening to? I was listening to an old episode of, well, they're all old episodes of Enjoy an Album,
Yeah.
and I was listening to
For the benefit of the listener, a podcast I used to do.
with
If you
Liam,
remember.
with Liam with Neil,
Uh-huh.
that was reviewing albums,
Mhm.
and
You were on it once.
I was on it once, and you were reviewing Andre Benjamin's solo flute project.
All right, yeah.
What's that album called again?
3 Stacks. It's like a peaceful new wave or something.
Something like
it
that.
Wasn't. Yeah.
And you were
It didn't have a cool name.
you were referencing Get Shorty and Be Cool. Is he in Be Cool or Get Shorty?
He's in the sequel to Get Shorty, Be Cool.
Be Cool. And that
The first time John Travolta and Uma Thurman had worked together after Pulp Fiction.
Who could forget? And Be Cool, Get Shorty gives me like the whole 9. They have what the whole 9 yards and what the whole 10 yards wishes that they could have. Does that make sense?
I would say the other way around.
What?
I would say Whole 9 Yards is way better than Get Shorty and Be Cool.
Because the whole 9 yards is the first time that Matthew Perry and Bruce Willis have been in a project together since Friends.
Yes, exactly. What a great episode that is. 2 episodes, I think.
So good.
Yeah, really good.
Unreal. Anyway,
The chemistry with the boys was just off the charts.
You boys have got. Oh, what do you mean, Bruce Willis or the original three boys?
All of them.
Bruce Willis and David Schwimmer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, them two. Fuck me, it was like Abbott and Costello up there. It's like Keenan and Kel.
I mean, if you got one, I mean, it truly is.
like
One's flexing in the mirror, the other one's hiding under a bed. You just don't get that sort of. You just don't get that sort of.
It was his girlfriend's dad, wasn't it?
Mhm.
And then he was also pumping Rachel.
Bruce Willis was
Yeah.
with Rachel.
Fuck
Yeah.
me, what
What a situation.
what a situation to have comedy derived from, man. Great
Anyway,
stuff.
great stuff. Great stuff. Yes.
Let's
So
get down to the next.
yeah, let's get down to the nitty gritty. So yeah, I'm using the podcast as like a writing exercise to
I
try
like
and
the
write.
phrase you used in the brief. Ambient writing exercise.
Yes, it's an ambient writing exercise in terms of if I can come up with anything from it, that's helpful. But basically, just to see what people talk about and what are regular things that come up with in conversation with other people, and should I lean into that, or does that resonate with me or not? So as a writing exercise for my next show. So my first question is, how do you write?
How do I write? I used to write by keeping a notepad next to my bed, and then if I couldn't sleep, I would write down what I was thinking about. And then A, you're emptying your head so you can get to sleep better. But B, I think that's what Stan Lee did when he came up with like Spider-Man and the Hulk and the Fantastic Four and stuff.
He couldn't sleep. I kind of still thinking about this big green cunt.
He would have a dream.
Don't make me sleepy. You wouldn't like me when I'm sleepy.
That's my secret. I'm always sleepy. So yeah, I think it's like that's something I ripped off of Stanley. But he would have a dream about a man who would crawl on the walls, and he'd wake up and go, "Fuck, that was mental." Write that down.
Excelsior! Think
Um,
Stanley pops up in his own dreams as like a wee cameo.
100% cameos in
Always,
his own dreams.
always hanging out a window.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey!
Yeah, he's dead now, isn't he?
He is.
Oh, him and Matthew
Shame.
Perry sharing a condo in heaven, I'm sure.
Swapping girlfriends.
Swapping them about, shagging them. Crazy stuff.
I love it.
The boys, double dates, etc. So that's something I like to do, is have a notepad next to my bed. Unfortunately, now I think compared to when I started, I don't think I had a mobile phone when I started. So I was finding it difficult to get gigs and stuff because I didn't have a phone really. And then also
You started in the 1970s, right?
started in
You just go
1972.
down to the store. You'd walk down
You'd
to the
walk
store.
down the cellar, and
Yeah.
you would, get your slice of pizza.
through the whores and the junkies.
Yeah.
You'd be lucky if you didn't get stabbed.
It was a different time when I started. I didn't have a mobile phone. But I had, and I didn't have, like, I didn't have, like, a games console or anything when I started, so that was really how I would be. It was more of a getting to sleep exercise than an exercise, but it was quite handy. And then for the last show, the one I'm touring just now, how I wrote that one was I would do the same walk every day, and then I would go to the same cafe every day, and I would sit for an hour and write as much as I could. And if you only write one page, great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you write 10 pages, fantastic.
10 times great.
Yeah, 100. I mean, I think it's actually exponential, so it'd be like 100 times great, except 10 times 10 rather than 10 of greatness. It would be 1 times 10 rather than 1 times 1. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that was good, and I think I'll go back to doing that when I write the next one. I'll just go to a coffee shop. It's very romantic, and I like that. I like going to a coffee shop with a notepad, and some cunts having an annoying conversation near you, and I'm reading this book by a guy who worked for Studio Ghibli,
Mm-hmm.
and he hangs around with Hayao Miyazaki, who's like a big genius,
Mm-hmm.
animation genius, who came up with all these great characters and stuff. And he says he has a
Go on. I just remember something.
okay tab, open the tab. He has a thing of like a 3 meter rule, which is like great ideas are within 3 meters of you. Because if someone who you're speaking to has an experience, then somebody, and this is set in Tokyo, this conversation, someone 3 meters for you has a problem or an idea, that means somebody else in Tokyo could have that, and somebody if somebody in Tokyo has that, means that somebody else in Japan could relate to that. If somebody in Japan can relate to that, means that everybody in the world could relate to that potentially. So he has the 3 meters rule, which is to keep having conversations within 3 meters of him. And that's where ideas will come from.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing. The
Yeah.
Japanese method.
The Japanese method of writing
Writing stand-up.
a thing they don't have or do, which
Yeah.
is kind of interesting.
See, it's interesting that you mentioned that because one of a YouTuber that I watch is a very sort of like cute twee YouTuber that I watch that I'm like, I don't like that I like this, but I do really like it. She is an author, and she's also obsessed with Japan. like yourself.
Yeah.
But she does like video diaries of her writing her novel, and it's all like sort of like about just like, this is how many words I did today, this is what I did today, went for a mental health walk, blah blah blah. But she'll also, my favorite videos of hers that she does is she's like, I copied like Tennessee Williams' writing routine for a week.
Yeah.
I did, and I did Donna Tartt's writing routine for a week.
Yeah.
And then one she does is Hayao Miyazaki.
Oh, that's his thing.
Yeah, and
Which
it's
is
like
just smoke and panic.
noodles, but it's like the times specifically. It's the times of day.
Right. Yeah, I'm an afternoon writer. I tried writing a novel during lockdown, and I would be up till 4 in the morning writing, slapping away. It was really dramatic and felt like a novelist. Pure. The sun's coming up, and I'm just like, battering out. I tried to write a certain amount of words every day and stuff. But
That's what they say is helpful for.
Stephen King, you read his thing on writing?
No,
mate.
Is it
That
good or
guy's-
is it crazy?
Well, he was a coke addict.
Yes.
Alky bastard.
Yeah.
Freak show.
Uh-huh.
But he's wrote a lot of books.
Mm.
He's wrote a fair amount, and he
Mhm.
keeps doing it, and they're long as fuck,
Yes.
which isn't necessarily good. But
No.
if you want to write loads of stuff, then do what he does. Write every day. And yeah, he's really good. His one's good.
Yeah, I should read it. Well, that's interesting. Thanks very much for.
Haruki Murakami as well. He's got one called Novelist as a Vocation.
Right. See, I've never
Yeah.
read any of his.
Oh man, you'd like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I should read it.
There's a lot of stuff about women's bodies that's a bit dated.
Okay. Okay.
Another one of my favorite Japanese authors, Yoko Ogawa. She's really great. She's done the Memory Police and all this type of stuff. And she had an interview with him, and he thought it was going to be a puff piece, but she's really like taking him to task. Like, why are all your female characters just like dog shit? And he was like, oh, I never really thought about
He
it.
said,
like
"Baby doll, I thought this was a puff piece."
that." He thought it was a puff piece. But it wasn't. And then somebody asked him about, but he's so in his head's in the clouds so much that like somebody asked him like, what happened to that fucking Yoko Ogawa interview where she really fucking twisted your nips? And he was like, did she? I didn't. I just thought we were having a conversation. I think
Right.
she got some good points, but it's not how I see it. He's just such a jazz listening to cat freak. He just loves cats and jazz and fucking women going missing and stuff like. He rocks, man. I love him. But I've done
And he's got a book about how to do that.
yeah,
About how he gets in that headspace.
yeah. He's
Nice.
got in his book about running what I talk about when I talk about running.
Wow.
Great, and it's mostly about being a writer, really.
Okay.
But it's kind of about running.
Wow. I love that. It does seem like, in some ways, such a so like what you should be doing, but then sometimes I'm like, what a waste of time reading a book about writing books. But I love it.
Yeah.
I love.
It's
I
just
love,
another
I love
form of
all of it.
procrastination,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I love it all.
It's like when you read the book about quitting smoking, Easy Way, by
Mhm.
Alan Carr.
A book that changed your life. It's fair to say.
Book that changed my life. But that is like, you don't need to quit smoking until you're finished. And I think those books should say you should write. No, you shouldn't wait till the end to write. Do you know what I mean? It should be the opposite, I think.
Yeah, you're smoking, reading the book. Yeah.
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 Because you're supposed to wait. You're supposed to read it all, and it will change your mind, and you won't want to smoke. That's not how I did it, but
Right.
that's what it says in the book.
Well,
Yeah. So what was the question? How do
how
I
do
write?
you write? Yeah.
I read loads of books by Japanese cunts about how to write. I just think it's handy to know how other people do it.
This is this is where your sort of status is in the comedy scene. That I remember being in an agreement room and people being like, "I heard CMB doesn't write anything down," and I was like, "What, like Lil Wayne?"
It's honestly,
And I was
it's
like-
off the top of the dome.
I was like, "What?" In case he's worried people steal. He's like a combination of Lil Wayne. And he's got the creative genius of Lil Wayne and the paranoia of Bob Monkhouse. He doesn't want anyone to steal his joke book.
That's
So it's all.
That's completely not true at all. I write everything down to the word, not to the word. Sometimes I'll write to the word, and then
Mm-hmm.
no, that's
Ever
not.
since he got a mobile phone, he
It's
writes
ruined
everything
his
down.
life since he got that Moby. His wee Nokia. That Motorola Razor's crippled his creativity. His output's dog shit. No, that's mental. I don't. Yeah. Nobody. I mean, Roscoe. Maybe they were talking about Roscoe. Maybe they were thinking about Roscoe.
Does he
Maybe
not
I
write
was
anything
slagging
down?
up. He doesn't know how to write. He doesn't read. He's dumb. He's got no clue. He honestly could write down a sentence, but he couldn't read it again. You know, so he doesn't. He doesn't write. But I do.
Doesn't need to.
No, he genuinely doesn't, and it's infuriating. But yeah, and I don't think Liam. I don't think Liam writes. I don't know how he writes actually, but it's very
I'll
different
need
the
to.
way
I'll
I
need
write.
to. I'll
yeah.
need to ask him when I get him on.
But he'll do like bullet points and stuff, and he'll just kind of
right on stage.
yeah. I
Mhm.
think.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to Mariel and her writing process is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's an interesting person.
Yeah.
She's got some wild techniques about
yeah.
like she'll do like spells and stuff. You know.
Whoa.
Yeah, magic.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I'm more just.
But
But I've just decided, you know, there's. I think Stephen King
You
writes.
just decided?
No, I've just decided
Wow.
in my life.
This is a creative podcast. I've just decided.
I'm making creative decisions, but I think I don't write every day. I'll have periods of writing every day. You know, I'll go 3 months and I'll
Yeah.
write every day, and that's a writing period. And then I'll have, you know, a gigging period, a work in progress period, and I'll have writing involved in it. Do you know? I don't think you should write every day for the rest of your life, because, you know, have a day off,
Mhm.
have a Twix.
Yeah.
You know, so take that, Stephen King.
Yeah.
You dick.
Well, thanks very much for sharing that. I appreciate it.
No worries. I love talking about writing.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier than writing.
Yeah, I love it so much. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm doing this, because like, this is easier
I
than.
can't believe somebody said, "Oh, he doesn't write." What? I've fucking bags full of pens. I think that's for sure.
They're all
said
just
that?
for
I'll
tune on.
kill
I
them.
can't remember.
Don't reveal your sources.
I can't remember.
I heard he doesn't even write.
I heard he doesn't write. I know. I think it was like I heard he doesn't write anything down. It wasn't like I heard he doesn't write.
The exact opposite's true.
Well, I think
But I'll tell you this before we start talking about houses and stuff, or where we've lived. But I remember. Wait, what was I going to say? Sorry.
he doesn't write anything down.
It's about not writing down. It's like when you read The Road by Jack Kerouac, and it's like, man, he just wrote that down in one go. He just sat down with a typewriter and typed for 4 days on mescaline, and like you can see, it's like, no, he said that. because it's a good story, and you go, oh, read this. He wrote it in 5 days, and he wrote it like a good version of what that would be like. He didn't actually fucking do that. He edited it, and he did what every writer does, which is to take something that they vomited and take the good bits out. And people believe the shite, and it's like, sometimes I think you shouldn't tell the truth about how you write. You should have a kind of magic to it, and you should say, yeah, I don't write it down. I just kind of write it in my head and think about it and let it soak up the juices.
I just chuck a notebook and a pen and a plastic bag, give it a big shake, and then I go on stage.
Yeah. I would like to have. I think it's good to have kind of a mystery about what you do and to lie about it. For comedians to just go, I'll write it down. I just go up there and tell the truth.
Go up there.
I go up there and tell it the way that it is, and if people find that funny, cool. But really, they're sitting in the bed with no mobile, just like dog food. Why does dog food have a dog on the tin when it doesn't have? It's not like food made out of dog. Yeah. They just think about that for 3 months.
Yeah, and then they go back to sleep.
They go back to sleep. Do you know what I mean? And then say that it's just the truth coming out when it's really stuff like that.
Before we get into it, I'm going to take a little. We'll take a little break in the format of the show because I want to do I want to revisit the little feature I did on Enjoy an Album where I did
with presents.
Yeah, where
I did this. I was on Sam Lake's podcast and I brought wee presents for him because it's just such a nice thing to do as a guest.
It's good. I mean, it's currying favour with the guest at the very least.
This is fucked up because you were the guest giving gifts and now you're the host giving gifts.
Gifts are good to.
You're like Santa, you can't. Oh yeah,
it's not nearly as good as last time.
Okay.
We'll say that much. But
what's the bookshop? What's this?
Oh, this is one of my favourite tote bags. This is Weems Bay train station bookshop.
What? Fuck me.
You've been to Weems Bay Station?
I don't think I've seen the bookshop. Where is it?
It's tiny. It's tucked away.
I've been to the pub. Bay, trust me, I've not been to the pub. I was a child the last time I was in Weems Bay, I think.
And the bookshop's great as well. But this is a tote bag from the bookshop at Weems Bay Station, one of my favourite train stations.
Give me your top 3 bookshops in Scotland, John.
This is up there, I'd say. What else? I'm in bookshops, but I'm just not shopping for books.
You're not falling in love with them.
Christ. Where's the place? Where's the town with the most bookshops in Scotland? Wigtown. The one that used to be the pub.
Yeah.
It's got a bar in it, and they kind of painted it green.
Yeah.
I just loved being in there, and I loved the feeling of I'll never be able to look at all of these. You know what I mean?
That is, I think it's a kind of nice thing.
Browser's remorse.
Is that what it's called?
No, I just made that up.
No,
but you're kind of like,
nice
I can't look at all of this, so I've just got to look at this shelf and then move on.
Smart.
But there's another shop in Wigtown that is the one that's got a whole room of penguin class, and it's it's got a cat in it and stuff. Yeah. That's incredible, that place. But I found they can be quite overwhelming, those sort of books. Yeah. Those sort of bookshops, sorry.
You're just like, oh, this is a lot.
This is a lot. And then it starts to get into would I be able to read these, all of these in the rest of my life? How long am I going to live?
You're confronted with your own mortality every time you go into a bookshop. Yeah. You're like, well, I guess I'm never going to, it's beautiful because you're like, well, I'm going to take a wee bit of my life to read this. Mm-hmm. And it's, some shite.
Mm-hmm. But that one that's like a pub in Wigtown, and the third one, I don't know. Oh, I really like Caledonia Books on Great Western Road.
I've been in there once or twice, but I'll always look in the window.
It's
a
nice.
bit like fucking what's his name, Jimmy Egypt. I'll always look in the window. Yeah, but I've only been in once or twice.
Yeah,
I bought a guitar in there quite recently, but but I'd looked in the window about 400 times.
Yeah,
and then I just seen one. I went, I've got to have it, man.
Got to do it.
Gotta have it.
So
cracking choices.
You're no longer. I mean, to break the fourth wall, we are recording less than 48 hours after the attempted assassination of President Donald J. Trump.
Donald J. Trump, former president. Some say current
future
president.
president.
Yeah, some say he's the best there ever was, the best there ever is, the best there ever will be.
Yeah.
He's been a wee guy who looks sort of like me, but not really.
People are saying probably will be, conspiracy theory of the year. But you're a big conspiracy theory person.
I'm an enthusiast. I don't believe them, but I like to document
enthusiast.
them.
And one of the vehicles for this was your former podcast Enjoy an Album that you co-hosted with Liam, with Neil, where you often asked guests about what they thought.
What do you really think happened on 9/11? That time we got Chris Thorburn to really explain. That was just that was why I started podcasting. To put somebody right in the spot.
Well, I have a gift for you. I have.
Oh yes.
24 hours at Ground Zero, 7 days in September, and
America Rebuilt.
This is 3 9/11 documentaries in one DVD.
Oh, yes. Narrated by none other than Kevin Spacey. Now he kind of done a sexual 9/11 and a lot of young boys, didn't he? Thank you so much. I'll stick it there and just kind of hold it.
I think that is it fair to say that like your
kind of matches my shirt?
Kind of does.
Red, white, and blue.
The
world famous.
A staunch DVD cover.
Very staunch collection of 9/11 documentaries.
I think with this,
so happy. Thanks.
With this podcast and this, I think it is inherently like nostalgic. Would you describe yourself as like a nostalgic person?
Yeah. It's a kind of an issue. Do you know what I mean? You can't live in the past. It's so easy to live in the past and the future.
Unless you're the president of the past, present, and future all at the same time.
Yeah, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's other than him, it's quite an unhealthy characteristic. But I do often. I'm a ruminator. I do ruminate a lot. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking a lot about the past.
And I think a lot of your sometimes bits of your stand up are about like, I mean, you can say this so much about people, but about comedians, but like embarrassing moments and
regret.
Well, that is why my next gift for you is.
Oh yeah, baby, that's so cool. Look at that, Robbie Williams 7-inch.
No regrets.
No regrets. Ant music. 2 songs I'm not familiar with.
You've heard of No Regrets.
What does it go like?
No regrets. I think it's his LA.
One album cover as well.
Yeah.
A lady in nylon stockings and high heels. You're looking between her legs and
at Robbie Williams.
What's the name of that painter in America who does
David Hockney.
Very Hockney-esque. It's a Hockney-esque cover.
Is, but instead of Hockney painting a young boy, it's Robbie diving in between a woman's legs.
Someone messaged me on Instagram. I've started this new podcast, Here Comes the Guillotine, and
every Monday new episode comes out.
Every Monday new episode comes out. And I'm getting a lot of messages from quite strange people. And this one guy messaged me, and I love this first message.
Is this because you are a fellow trawlerman on the ship that Frankie Boyle is the captain of?
Yes. That's how I would phrase it.
Yeah. You're getting all sorts of mollusks from the bottom of the ocean floor.
We are dredging the seafloor and all kinds of deranged fish.
And Susie's like, the net's going to fucking burst.
She's had to leave Twitter because of stuff like this.
Yeah.
But this guy messaged me and he said, your eternal boyhood is something to be admired. And I quite like that. I didn't respond because it's clearly a freakish thing to say. But he was like, yeah, I really admire your eternal boyhood. Keep living the way you want to live or something like that. I was like, right, okay. Strange first message. I think I might have liked it. I think that was the response. I went, yeah, okay, nice thing to say. Like, strange but nice. And then the second message was something about becoming an, freedom fighter in Gaza or something. And I was like, he was like, we need boots on the ground. I was like, my boots aren't the boots that you need on the ground. I'm not going to join the army. I'm not going to join any army, like, as much as, how's that your second message to someone? A, I love your eternal boyhood. Keep on being your second one. We need boots on the ground in Gaza. Can you join my army? No! What do you mean? Anyway, so when you said that about,
we're looking for an army of eternal boys. We need you.
The army of eternal boys. Wow. But I always see Robbie as the reason
as an eternal boy.
He's an eternal boy as well.
Some eternal boy.
Some eternal boy.
Mm.
Eternal boyhood of the spotless mind.
Well, speaking of your boyhood,
Christopher Macarthur-Boyd.
Speaking of your boyhood, I am interested in learning a bit more about this, but I did hear on an episode of Here Comes the Guillotine. I almost said Enjoy the Guillotine.
Enjoy the Guillotine.
Crazy mashup. Is that what does this mean to you?
Oh, let's see it. The Northern Light of Old Aberdeen, featuring the Aberdeen football squad. Wow.
So you said that you used to have a pair of Aberdeen Football Club pyjamas.
Look at that, real Aberdonian mould.
Yeah. I've got some on me as well, but
I used to have, because I kind of grew up in a mixed family, and you weren't really allowed to be in my district of it. You weren't really allowed to be a Rangers fan or a Celtic fan. But my granddad, I think, wanted to... I don't know whose idea this was. I think it was my granddad. He wasn't a fan of the Dons, personally, but they bought me a kind of terry cloth Aberdeen FC football strip pyjamas, and it was very soft. And I always, whenever I had like a
bath
sticker,
or like a...
No, but...
Was that funny?
Just because I was about to say like a panini sticker book.
Okay.
Whenever I had that panini sticker, not whenever I had a bath. But it's nice. I like the idea of getting out of the bath. Where's my Aberdeen strip?
It's well, when it's like, when you're having a sort of... I've just realised that. It's not.
It's not on at all. But we've got natural light, so it's probably fine.
It's just funny to see something that you've erected, plugged in,
pointed the right way. And then,
anyway. So, but when you maybe will have like a bath or something like that, and you're like, there's only one pajamas or hoodie or something that will do ceremonial.
My wee baby arse, and somebody get my Aberdeen strip, because I'm out the bath.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Anyway, but that's not where we are. We're opening up a Panini sticker book, and
I liked Dunfermline FC because they had the kind of gothic logo with the castle or the house on the hill, and I just loved Aberdeen because I had the wee strip. I don't know who got it for me. I think it was my granddad, and my dad was like, even that's too much. But yeah, I always kind of seen myself as an Aberdeen FC guy when I was a child.
Fascinating.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. Couldn't tell you a player, but the pajamas were very soft.
Well, that's...
Thank you so much.
But there you go. That's
the
a
Northern
little...
Light of Old Aberdeen. I can't wait to add that to my collection.
I mean, I listen to that song, and it always it gets me very, very emotional. No regrets.
What does it go like?
Music. The Northern Lights of Old Aberdeen. When I was a lad, you wouldn't know it.
When I was a lad, what's it go?
When I was a lad, a tiny wee lad, my mother said to me, "The Northern Lights of Old Aberdeen are what I want to see, or where I want to be. I've been a wanderer all my life."
Can you see the Northern Lights of Aberdeen?
It's the Northern Lights of Old Aberdeen.
Right.
Because it's in the north.
What, like on Union Street?
I guess, yeah. It's a romantic idea of something, and this is I think this is the European song. So I think this is before or when they had just won the European Cup Winners' Cup under the management of Govan boy Sir Alex Ferguson. You can't say I don't think about things.
That's beautiful.
On white vinyl.
Whoa!
Which is very rare which is not common for the time.
Rare for this charity football single. You'd hope it's for charity.
But there you go. Anyway.
It could be for the benefit. So I didn't know, that Aberdeen won
the European Cup Winners' Cup.
Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the most accomplished,
one of the
football
best football
managers
boot
of all
throwers
time. Yeah,
in
he
the world.
kicked. He threw a boot at
Oh,
Beckham.
you said you
today.
started watching the
Oh, well,
documentary.
I finished it. Finished watching it. Great stuff.
And do you think they really answered the questions, or you're left with more?
About
you're left,
9/11?
No, the 9/11 of the Manchester United locker room, which was a second football boot, has just hit David Beckham's head.
Mr. President.
Anyway, speaking of, well, I've got another coloured record here for you, but you like Arab Strap, don't you?
Yeah. This guy's great, isn't he?
Do you have this record?
No. This is cool.
And I
that's
thought
Aidan
because we're going to be
Moffat.
talking about Glasgow, Scotland, and I thought that you'd enjoy this. Have you seen that
Amazing.
documentary?
No.
No.
About this cunt?
Yeah, where
No.
you're meant to be.
No.
Oh, you'd love it.
He's on tour in Scotland?
Yes. So it's him. I don't know much about. Well, I know this documentary, but
Recorded live at the Mitchell Theatre in Glasgow. Wow.
it's a documentary about him travelling around Scotland trying to gather folk songs.
Oh, wow.
And you know how like folk songs would be passed on generation to generation. He's like trying to meet people and gather different folk songs from other areas, including speaking to a woman who is from a famous folk and trad family, who like they are known for being keepers of folk songs, of Scottish folk songs, and he is also trying to write new folk songs, but in the style of trad.
Yeah. But probably more. I woke up and my fucking arse was killing me. Taking too many pills last night.
But that sort of thing. And he's gigging in like Shetland and stuff, and he does a gig in Aberdeen at the Blue Lamp.
Does he really?
Yeah,
That's
and
incredible.
then it ends with
I love the Blue Lamp.
with a concert at the Barrowlands. It's a fantastic documentary.
Red Vinyl.
But it's a
Just like his wee hat.
just like his wee hat.
How they really thought everything, didn't they?
They really thought of everything in 2014 as well.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long.
What a band as well. James Graham, Stevie Jones.
So where were you born?
I can't remember. I think it was Rotten Row Hospital. And then the first
Rotten Row.
Rotten Row.
That sounds like a roll down hospital.
This is for rotten wee babies.
A row of rotten babies.
A row of rotten babies' heads. Yeah. I hate them, said Dr. Pinfiggle. The fucking awful doctor who hates babies.
One row after another like shark's teeth, infinitely replacing them as they either die or become equally awful adults.
And then a ghost comes and changes his mind.
So you were born there.
I was born in Dickensian 1970s.
Yeah.
That's where I became a stand-up, of course, pre-mobile phone. We just went out the cellar in those days.
Tell the truth.
Told the truth. I've never wrote a word in my life.
Roll down. What do? I just go into my wee shed and I just write the truth. I just tell the truth.
I get my big feather that can write quill. And I just tell the truth. That's my writing methods.
So you were born in Rotten Row Hospital. Where is that? Where was
I
that?
think it's gone. I think they burned it down. Yeah, I think that was where I was born anyway. I might have been the Queen. I don't know. It wasn't the Queen Elizabeth. That's round the corner from here, and 10 years old. Yeah, I don't know really. I wasn't really conscious yet, but somewhere in Glasgow. I think Rotten Row. I need to look that up.
And I'll look it up. I'll try not to Google myself. And
Like the wrong button.
it can happen. Rotten Row Hospital.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's coming up, so it's
Yeah.
real. God, what a facade.
What a facade. Really bleak. And if you look at my high school, you'll see that I was generally around the bleakest buildings of all time.
The Rotten Row is a street in the Townhead district of Glasgow, one of the oldest streets in the city. It underwent heavy redevelopment in the 20th century and now
Thank
forms
fuck.
part of Strathclyde Uni's John Anderson campus. The street runs along the summit of a drumlin known historically as Balmano Brae, although this name has long fallen from use.
Yeah, nobody calls it
What is a
Balmano
dr-
Brae
what
these
is a-
days.
What is a drumlin?
Drumlin? Fuck. Well, probably the same as like drum Gaelic and drum. But what's it called? Drum.
A drumlin from the Irish word droimnane, little ridge.
Very well spoken.
Probably
He's got it
badly.
Irish.
First recorded in 1833 in the classical sense is an elongated hill in the shape of an inverted spoon or a half-buried egg.
Yeah.
Who fucking was right?
What would you call that? A half. That's if you're a optimist or a.
You an inverted spoon guy or sort of a half-buried egg guy?
I'm kind of half buried egg.
I'm sort of
I see
half-buried
the
egg.
cup as half buried egg.
Okay, well I've looked at 2 Wikipedia entries and I'm none the wiser. So you were born in a half-buried egg.
I was born in a half buried egg.
in what
The
is it?
inverted
In
spoon.
Townhead, which is
I might be talking shit, but I think that's where I was born.
east,
I don't know.
where Townhead is. Christ,
Townhead.
east.
Aye, East End, because that's where the town started, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's like I was on a Reddit thread recently, and it was saying, where is Glasgow's old town? Because we don't have an old town. People
Sure.
saying High Street's basically it. That's the oldest bit, Townhead, in the East End. That's where the university used to be, and then they shipped it over the West End once Glasgow grew a wee bit. But that's the old bit of Glasgow. So that's where I'm from. The old bit.
Uh-huh.
I'm an old
cunt.
cunt.
and you grew up in the East End in what was it, Baillieston?
I was born, I remember Cranhill. That's where I lived when I was a wee baby boy, in a council house in Milford Street, in Cranhill, which is a real dump. And then we got when I turned 5 or 6, we moved to Baillieston. Yeah, Swinton. It says Baillieston in the letters, but really Swinton.
Right,
But
okay.
I grew up in Baillieston. Baillieston Main Street was my local hub.
Uh-huh.
But I remember being a wee boy out in Cranhill and being near the Quick Fit and being really just off London. What is it? Is
Road?
it Edinburgh Road?
Edinburgh Road.
Edinburgh, the one that goes out to Edinburgh, Edinburgh Road, wouldn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, Edinburgh Road. And London Road was nearby, but Edinburgh Road's the one that goes from like Denniston out to the fucking motorway.
Right.
But yeah, near Edinburgh Road, in the East End of Glasgow. So yeah, Cranhill, and then we moved out to Baillieston, Swinton, which is like right on the outskirts where Glasgow stops, and it becomes, if you keep walking, you'll get to like Coatbridge.
Mm-hmm.
But there would be some kind of rule in Glasgow about like licensing laws where you couldn't have an 18th birthday party because people would be too young at it. So we'd have to have our 18ths out in Coatbridge at a place
Right.
called the Clock Bar Caribbean Suite. One of the least Caribbean places I've ever been in my life.
The Coatbridge Clockwork Caribbean Suite.
And everybody would have their 18th there, and we would have to. It sounds like I'm genuinely for the 40s or something, but we would walk along the motorway, and like 10 of us, and then get there, and then get steaming, and then walk back along the motorway.
Back
It's
to
great.
yeah. 'cause
It
you're
does feel like growing up in the East End. You did grow up like ages ago, even though it was like 2008.
Really?
It felt like, and like
like
look
it
back,
was
you go,
decades ago.
Well, my granny used to sharpen pencils with a knife
over the,
over the bed.
over the.
I'm sharpening a pencil so you can write a birthday card when you go to. What time you go to Coatbridge?
But stuff like that, I just feel like, how old am I, man? Walking along the fucking motorway.
Because that's interesting. So what is it you pick? It's sort of like in international waters in Coatbridge where you'd be able to.
Yeah,
Where you'd
the Caribbean Suite. It wasn't like there was no palm trees.
No.
There was no like there was no like fruit. There was no like ocean stuff. It was just
That was the name of the suite.
It's just a fucking function room above a pub in Coatbridge that wasn't very good.
So why do you think that is? That there's this thing about the East End of it seeming like it's. Is it? Do you think is
loads of old people? So you hang around with
people.
them,
Right?
and pick up their habits. And I did hang out with my granny and my granddad a lot when I was a wee boy.
It's class.
Hanging out with old people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pick up.
Old people that love you dearly.
Yeah, don't just find a random oldie.
Yes,
You know, you need to have one that feels some kind of biological connection to
Yeah,
you. Some
yeah.
kind of stewardship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit. Absolutely. So there's loads of old people. A large
Loads of old
Asian
people out there.
population there.
There's not a lot of money out there. So everything's just kind of fucked and shite. And like the schools are, Garra Hill Primary where I went, in Bannerman, Garra Hill was like a lot of rooms were from the 40s. Like they built half of it and then they stopped building it for because of the Blitz or something, and then they just put up like temporary annexes that lasted 60 years, and they were the most.
Sorry, but when you are like, how old am I? That you're like, well, so I went to school, and then somehow it's like, but they stopped building that because of the Blitz. Like, what?
I know, but it was all stuff like that.
Okay.
And like, you know, the library was clearly from the 70s, and Bannerman High School had like a lot of brutalist architecture, and like really unfriendly architecture that it looks like a prison.
Yeah.
It looks like a jail.
Which is cool when you're in your late 20s and you're just sort of like looking at buildings on the internet.
And you're like,
But
wow,
not
this
when
is
you
really,
go
when
to
you
school.
Go there,
When you
the
have to go in.
oppression.
Oh, I have to go inside. No thanks.
Yeah, when it's an actual gulag that you are bound to be, that you're doomed by, it's really haunting and horrible. I do like brutalist architecture. I got a good book about it called like Concrete Glasgow or something like that. And it is interesting, but to actually go there every day and there's a big, it's just horrible, you know. So it felt like, looking back, it feels like I grew up in the 70s or something.
Yeah.
Even though it was, you know, Arctic Monkeys were out.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think just there is that thing of like old people talking to you, like them telling you something that being like, but then they had to stop building it because of the Blitz, and then you're like, you've heard that so many times that it's just become canonical, like in your knowledge, that it's something that it would be impossible for you to forget.
Well, when we were there, they knocked them down and they went, oh, we can't really have these because, you know, they've been there since the 40s and they were temporary in the 40s, and now, you know, it's 2005 and they're still there, so we're going to knock them down. And you're like, but I was just in there for a year. That was my classroom for a year. And you're just kind of like, I didn't realise you weren't supposed to be freezing. And I mean, look, it felt like growing up in the past.
Oppressive.
But it was super oppressive. But, yeah, what was the question?
And when did you, and at what point did you feel like you became more aware of that when you got out of that sort of like I guess East End bubble where you'd maybe sort of see that or have it maybe reflected back at you, or was it through a sort of an understanding whilst you were growing up inside?
I used to have a bit about this, and it's kind of like, you know, everything seems normal when you grow up somewhere because you don't have anything to compare it to. And like, I remember an interview with like twins once, and they were like, "What's it like being a twin?" And they were like, "Oh, we've never not been a twin. So how, you know, how could you?"
Yeah.
It's impossible to answer what was
What
it
was
like
it
growing
like?
up anywhere because you get nothing to compare it to. But then you grow up and you meet other people, and definitely, my dad got a salon when I was about. He started working as the manager of a salon in Partick. So we would get the train, when I worked with him, we would get the train through from Easterhouse train station through Partick train station, which is a direct line. Fantastic. The long train that goes from Partick to Edinburgh and Helensburgh to Edinburgh.
tough. It's a tough shift.
It's a tough shift. A shift
I
leave.
had to get that train recently after a gig.
Because
from
the
Edinburgh,
fast
because
train's
the
off,
express
isn't
was
it?
off,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I done that
Which is
myself to go do some
Just about the worst news that you can get as a comedian. in my experience.
People say to you, they're like, "What is it like being a stand-up? Is it quite nerve-wracking going up there?" And you're like, "Yeah, sometimes the trains are off, and you need to get a longer train."
Yeah.
And that, honestly, you just think, why bother breathing? But yeah, you get that train from and then definitely being in Partick, and I think a lot of people go to Partick's a bit fucking rough and ready or something. But I do remember being in Partick, and like my dad sending me on an errand, and I was listening to like the Velvet Underground on headphones, and then just going into like a secondhand shop, and some guy being like, "Oh, you listening to the Velvet Underground?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And again, when did I grow up? But like listening to the Black Angels Death song on these big Urban Outfitters headphones, and then this,
he can tell because he can probably hear more of the music than you can in those fucking shitty headphones.
100%. People shouldn't be able to tell what Velvet Underground song you're listening to.
Huh? And you can also hear him clearly. You listen to Velvet Underground? Aye.
That was part of the charm, though,
Yeah.
for the headphones. It was like you want to know what people are. You want other people to know what you're listening to, don't you?
Yeah.
When you're that age,
stopping and speaking to people in the street. Yeah.
just somebody, that would never happen in Baillieston Main Street. I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe now, but I don't.
Yeah.
That back then.
So you had this sort of like 500 Days of Summer moment with this guy working in a second-hand shop in Partick.
Yeah, I wish I got his number. We could have had some kind of sexual odyssey together, but we didn't. It was just fleeting. I just thought, I'd love to live in Partick one day when I was a teenager.
People are into it.
Where you can wear a... I do think going to the south side sometimes, you'll meet somebody with an earring, and you go, this is a bit much for me.
Oh, hold on a minute.
But definitely... people listening to records, and I just felt a wee bit more. So it's a kind of, and walking up Byers Road. I remember going to Byers Road for the first time when I was like 15 or something, and just being like, "That's nice." Yeah, it's something Darren McGarvey talks about in Poverty Safari of going to the Byers Road, and people are like, and it's just not been a constant mood of like potential violence, and just being like, "This is fucking." He talks about it and then going like people looking at him and they know he's not supposed to be there. Whereas I just kind of, there were loads of cool people at my school, but the pervading theme was of violence and like intimidation and like, being quite scary. And there was loads of cool people, but through there it just felt a wee bit more, I don't know, just an opportunity to be a bit more kind of loose. Mm-hmm. I've always been searching for looseness my entire life. But yeah, that was maybe that, and then going to university for 9 months and then dropping out because I went mental. But definitely got meeting people through there and people being like, "Oh, he's a posh cunt and he's alright," and being like, I had no understanding of class or politics whatsoever when I was 18. And 19, I was just like, what? I didn't get it at all. And then definitely doing stand-up and meeting, posh, like going to England and going to the Fringe, meeting all these posh cunts that are like, Cambridge Footlights people and all sorts. Mm-hmm. I do like that about the Scottish comedy scene, is that there's no like domination of it by posh cunts the way that you would get, the way that you do get in England. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It can feel a bit one-sided because it's so expensive to be a comedian in London that the only people who can manage to like, the way you would have to grind to like scrape together a living to live in London, you wouldn't have any time to do a podcast at 21 Soho. Do you know what I mean? So anyway,
but they don't. They haven't got a clue about doing lessons in temporary accommodation that was temporary for World War II,
World
but
War II standards.
it's actually made a pretty good stuff. So we'll just see how much more years we can
now
get out of
they've
it.
now they've put up nice stuff, and I went back to Garrett Hill Primary to do a vote when I still lived with my mum and dad. I don't think I'd changed my voting thing, and I had to go back with my girlfriend. And maybe it was when we were living there for a year. Actually, yeah, we done a vote there, and I was like, "Oh, it's a lot nicer now. That's nice." And I think somebody was having a go at me. They were like, "Oh, you for Baillieston, gentrified Baillieston?" Huh? And I was like, "What?"
Is that the person who asked what street? What's your address? Oh, gentrified Baillieston.
Oh, gentrified. Somebody was like, gentrified. And I was like, what do you mean it's gentrified? And he went, you've got a Costa now. It's like, oh, do you think motorway service stations are gentrified?
The Costa machine in the BP.
Oh, fancy Dan. Coffee with milk.
Here he comes.
Oh, working class. Stuff like that. I just thought that was a guy accused Baillieston of being gentrified because it had a Costa.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
And yeah,
you literally have to be like in rags. To be like, that's a real working class guy, guys. Tarzan.
Living with the monkeys.
The apes.
See if you were raised by a human, you're no working class.
Calluses on his hands from swinging from the vines.
Vine to
Honest
vine
work.
to vine. That's the way it should be. None of this middle class, running water, speaking English, being human type shit.
Well, that's very interesting. That's very
What?
just you talking about sort of being from that place and that. I think a lot of people would also maybe feel that way. Just maybe not what you're saying about the East End specifically, but
Growing up in the past.
Growing up the past, if you spend a lot of time around old people and so much like tangible things from the past within 3 feet.
3 feet of you,
that feels sort of like, it doesn't really feel like any specific way when you're being sort of drip fed it by your grandparents or parents, and then here we are in 2024, and me and my partner have surrounded ourselves with things, with artifacts that are from their like prime,
totally,
of their life.
The cowboy stuff. I think I've been getting out of country recently myself.
Yeah, sure.
And definitely my granddad would sit and watch cowboy films all day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just try to be like my granddad. That's not you, by the way. You're my friend, John.
Me, yeah. And
you have the same name as my granddad. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I've got the name of a granddad.
I don't think Christopher's a granddad name.
No, it's not.
It's a nephew name.
It's a nephew name. It's
My
Eternal
nephew
Boy.
Christopher, the Eternal Boy.
He's one of the Eternal Boys they've got now.
Yeah, here he is, one of the Eternal Boys. I never thought my family would have one of them, but
My granddad was a sort of Eternal Boy.
my granddad was Robbie Williams.
Do you think people romanticise the East End?
Who? Who does it?
Glaswegians.
Yeah. Well, everybody's like, we want to go down to bars, fucking that type of stuff. And I don't know. I don't think anybody's.
People talk about
I don't know
it.
if you read that book. I just saw the play of it. David Keenan.
This is Memorial
This
Device.
is Memorial
I just
Device.
finished reading it like 2 weeks ago.
So that's all set
got-
in
I've-
Airdrie, isn't it?
Yeah, I wrote a passage from it in the front of my notebook that I was writing that was about. I'm actually going to go get it.
Go
just
get
now.
it. Yeah. Oh hell yes. He's got
So
his
I
jotter
wrote
out.
I wrote this passage because it made me think of like, this is what I want to kind of talk about in this podcast. I was smoking. You read it actually.
Okay. 15th of May. I was smoking a
That's when I read
cigarette.
it, sorry.
Oh, okay. It's not by David. I was smoking a cigarette out of the window while staring at a cluster of trees silhouetted on the horizon that I always associated with the future or the mystery of all my life that has yet to come.
Because I think that Glaswegians
Romanticise
the East End because, and that it makes sense that it would be romanticised because it is the old town. It's the
Just that bit in town.
it's the origin of the original, and if you don't know that, then you know fuck all. Is that fair to?
Maybe. We were talking about what was it called? This is Memorial Device.
Oh yes. Sorry,
Keenan.
yes. We were talking about this is Memorial Device and hymns. Yeah, that. And you said you'd read that recently.
I read that a few years ago, and then I went to see the play version of it, which I don't know if he had a lot to do with it, but I went to see it in London, and it's like a film about not a stand-up scene, a music scene, a post-punk scene in Airdrie in the 1970s. And it's about, and it also reminds me of that Alistair Gray thing of like people never imagine themselves in Glasgow because there was no art or film set there. So if you want to go to Paris, you've already done it. It's like when you go to New York or London and you've seen it in films and TV shows and you're like, oh wow, it's just the way it is. But you don't really get the opportunity to do that in Glasgow. Now you can if you read his books and you read David Keenan and stuff. So,
but it is a sort of like a. But it's not a. It's not.
You kind of have to romanticise the East End because it's not actually good.
It's not romantic. Yeah, people tend to romanticize Paris. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
It's already romantic, and they just look at the romantic
reality romanticized. Paris.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I guess you have to kind of romanticize it. That's a really good point.
Yeah, there are good things about it.
This place isn't going to romanticize itself.
Basically, yeah.
Except Paris did, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an amazing book.
Somebody asked me before when I was in Tokyo, so a comedian messaged me and went, do you think that I would like a trip to Tokyo? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, do you like Japanese stuff? Because if you do, you'll have a great time. But if you don't like Japanese stuff, you'll be like, this is shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to already want to go based on, I've seen loads of anime where they're in Shibuya, so I'd like to go to Shibuya. You know what I mean? Like, Shinjuku and stuff like that. So you can't really have that relationship with Glasgow unless you've read 3 specific books. Then you go, I would quite like to go to Airdrie.
Yeah. Because, it's like, well, I can't... He couldn't imagine himself there until... You can imagine yourself in a place if you've read a book about it or if you've asked you if I would...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, there's different parts of the East. There's the same way as different parts of the West End and the South Side and stuff. Like, so, like, there is that wee bit of, like, Duke Street and Denniston that's became quite... Actually, has been a wee bit gentrified the last couple of years. But then I don't think gentrification's really hit where I grew up. And I just don't think... It has to an extent in that there is a Costa now. And, like, the forts there, that started when I was growing up there.
Right.
All of a sudden... There was a Borders bookshop, and now there's a Waterstones out in Easterhouse. Do you know what I mean? There's a Wagamama's in Easterhouse now. I mean, this is huge news.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be just a McDonald's, and now there's
and what was
a cinema.
What was that like? The fort opening up next to it? Was it like just a?
For those who are not familiar with the Glasgow Fort, it's a outdoor shopping centre in Glasgow, which is such a mistake to have an outdoor shopping centre. Like when it rains.
I don't think I've ever been.
No, there's been no reason to.
The noise you made.
No.
You've no business.
No business.
You've no business in Glasgow Fort. Sorry.
Unless you wanted to see a very specific showing of a film and you thought, it's worth the drive.
Yeah.
You'd have to drive to get there. There is a bus
That's not a million miles out of the wheelhouse of my lifestyle to go to to a specific Cineworld or a cinema to see it. Film,
Even then, I would recommend going out to the Coatbridge Showcase rather than the view.
I've been to the show. I've been to the Coatbridge Showcase when I was in a relationship with a girl from Largs.
Wow.
And,
Did not know that about you.
Yeah, years and years ago, and we saw two films
Back to back?
No, I think maybe a couple of days apart or something. We saw Twilight and Changeling.
Wow.
Two heavy hitters.
Heavy cinema.
One that really captured the imagination of the culture, and another that did not.
No. Was the Changeling a flop?
I think I would say so.
Yeah.
But I recommended it. I recommended it in Blockbuster to people, but I'm like, but it's quite heavy. The woman, her son goes missing, is returned, she's being gaslit, she's
Has
incarcerated.
your son died recently? If so, I would avoid it. I was thinking about this, and it's something I kind of wanted to. It's about like, do you know when in the olden days, if somebody was grieving, they would wear black. I think they should bring that back because nowadays I want loads of colour at my funeral.
I want it to be a
happy
celebration.
songs, everybody, and it's like, no, you don't realise it's not for you, and it's not for the people there to wear the black. It's for everybody else to go. Don't jump out behind a pillar at these guys because it's serious. Don't ruffle their hair. They're wearing black veil. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to have a laugh just now, and it's for everybody else to socially understand. You know, you see 5 guys come down the street wearing like rainbow hoodies. Look at you like, oh, these guys are up for a laugh. No, they've just came back for their pal's funeral, man.
Yeah.
So I think we should bring back the morning.
Wait, you wearing rainbow colours? You look like you've just been to a celebration of life.
Jesus, that cunt's just been a celebration of life over
just
there.
been celebrating my pal's life.
But I just think it's a kind thing because Victoria wore black. Queen Victoria wore black for a year when Prince Albert died because she was so horned up for him and fancied him so much, and they would have all kinds of strange sex together, and like she really loved him, and then she didn't really like get out of this horrible smelly black dress for like a year after he died, and I think that's the right way to do it, and it's a healthy way to process grief.
I think
it's a good message to people around
it's
you.
a good message to people. No. It is a good message, and it's also just to like when you're walking down the street and you maybe see like a hearse, and sometimes you're a bit like, oh,
you go, well, I won't go like that.
Yeah,
I won't flip the bird. I won't make wank gestures.
But you are like, but you obviously are reminded of your own mortality. Just walking down the street, and it is sometimes. It's not like it shouldn't be inherently depressing.
No,
it should be life affirming.
Yeah,
and if you see some people mourning or grieving, it would maybe make you appreciate the day a little bit more.
I think so. I think we should bring. I love it. I love being in mourning, and I think. I just think it would make things easier for everybody.
I like the idea of shivers and people sitting shiver.
The Jewish thing?
Yeah.
Where you sit down?
Where you sit down for a week and people just come to the house and talk, and you just like, it seems like just
That's good.
It seems very extreme and very intense, but it's like a sort of bloodletting of grief.
Yeah.
And you not get it out of the way, because it's not possible to just get it out of the way.
It sounds like it would help.
But it doesn't sound like you're holding anything in, and I mean, it would be annoying just having people like coming round for a week non-stop, but
yeah, you're
just supposed to sit there and really just listen to folk. And
I think the Scottish way of doing it is absolutely
which is
I don't like quite.
Okay, the Scottish method
compared to the Irish
the French
way of doing things,
the French method of podcasting, the Scottish method of grief.
But the Scottish thing, I mean, the Irish thing, would have like the wake and stuff, and the
An
Victorian way, wearing black and sit and shiver, or all the different ways that the way Mexican people do it and stuff's class, and we always just like so keep it in, yeah. Well, thanks for coming. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
it's fucked.
But what we're talking about grief. Oh, memorial.
Yeah, it is memorial device, and then like he kind of goes, "Oh, there's loads of amazing people out there," and I went to see the play version, and it's the guy who was in what's his name?
The guy who plays Jamie in the thick of it.
Yeah, the guy who plays Jamie in the thick of it. And there was loads of lines in it about Shettleston and Baillieston and Swinton, and it just made me feel. It was in London as well, and he was doing all these bits about like Baillieston Main Street and stuff, and I was just like, oh, it feels so really. It was really soothing to have you. Yeah.
It was like a sort of inverse. Instead of you being sat in the comfort of your own home, being force-fed
Paris.
being force-fed London-centric art.
I was in London taking in Scottish art, and people were laughing at jokes about Coatbridge and stuff. I was like, this is great.
Yeah, I wish I'd seen that. I would like to see how it would transfer to the stage.
That's really good.
So that brings me on to my question, which is maybe like about sort of writing that is like. So you've got artists that are, because I think you do tend to talk about Glasgow and reference it in your and Scotland in your.
I'm going to try not to do that next time.
in your stand up, but it seemed like you did it in a really great way in the past couple of shows, especially, and that is obviously I'm trying to capture that from an outsider's point of view.
Add-on.
Yes, so. I'm a terry cloth pajama.
You're a wee pair of terry cloth pajamas.
Pajamas. So you've got obviously authors that are synonymous with places like David Keenan and Airdrie.
Sure,
you've got James Joyce's Dublin. But people talk about it. It's like this person's.
Yeah.
Like their version of that. You've got like the south of Tennessee, Williams, or you've got like Spike Lee's New York. What is Christopher Macarthur-Boyd's Glasgow? And I am so sincere in asking that question.
And
it's
just the place you live. I had that show a couple of years ago that I never recorded it in, and it was mostly about Partick. It was my worst show, and it was all about about trains that about gentrification and about the thing with the reason why it's always the east end of the city that's rough and the west end's always nice, and
because you had that great joke that was like from the.
I've moved from the good part of the bad bit to the bad bit of the good part.
Yeah.
The good, yeah.
Good part of the bad bit, yeah.
Good part of the bad bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lateral slide.
Yes. But because I think about two, of the best sort of key Scottish comedy voices being yourself and Mark, right? Jenko 3000.
It's his Clydebank.
Jenko
sure.
Benjamin. But when Mark talks about Scotland and Glasgow, right? I think it's as if Glasgow is looking in a mirror and he is the mirror image, right? Whereas your comedy is more like Glasgow's looking in a mirror and your comedy is what is unseen outside of the mirror image.
Right,
does that make sense? It's a bit of what is less seen or what people maybe don't want to acknowledge.
Yeah. Okay, I think I know what you mean.
You kind of know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what is
the stuff you're not supposed to bring up?
Yeah, pedos in the cat house and stuff.
Pedos in the cat house.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's because it is. I think Glasgow's so over romanticized, and especially spending so much time doing comedy in places like Aberdeen up at the Blue Lamp and Dundee and Edinburgh. Having so many friends from Edinburgh and just realizing that Glasgow just sucks its own dick so much and really just hunched over, legs over the head, sucking its own cock.
It's had all its ribs removed.
Like a froob, like Marlon Manson treating his cock like a froob.
I heard Glasgow had its ribs removed so it could suck its own dick.
Yeah. Fucking Thatcher sold off her ribs.
Good ribs. Good hard working ribs.
So I mean, it's class here. Like we both live here, both like it here. But really, some of the stuff you hear Glaswegian people say, like, see outside of Glasgow, that's not really Scotland, stuff like that. And you're like, that's mental to say that. If anything, this is the Irish bit. That's why it's so class. I'm not saying that in like an anti-Irish way. This is that. That's why we don't say Ken, because that's why our accent sounds the way like a Northern Irish person's accent sounds a lot of the time, because we are the Irish bit of Scotland. That's why our football team, Celtic, has a four-leaf clover on it or something. This is the Irish bit. There's loads of Irish people here. That's why our
this is just the Irish district of a country.
This is the least Scottish part of Scotland.
Well,
but you'll hear people say stuff like that, like,
outside, that's Chukter stuff.
Anything outside the Glasgow is Chukter to some people.
Yeah.
And you're like, you couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about this recently with a friend, and I was like, I want to kind of talk about this in the show, like that exact sentiment, which is that, like, Glasgow is like the least Scottish place in Scotland, because so we were watching the Scotland-Germany game, right? And it was like towards the end of the match, and I was like, this pub's kind of like cleared out. It was Hochen at the start, and my pal Lewis, who is
this is the one where Scotland lost 5-1.
Yes.
Yeah.
And almost 6-1. I believe. It was almost 6-1. And he was like, well, people in Glasgow don't really care that much about national football that much. And I was like, really? I was like, is that just because the like local teams here are just that big and have been that successful? And he was kind of like, yeah, I'd say so. Like that the civic identity is stronger than the national identity.
Oh wow!
And it's like, and I've been doing jokes about how like New York, like Glasgow's the New York of Scotland. Like
sure. Yeah.
it thinks it's the center of the universe, but it's not even the capital city.
Yeah, that's really accurate.
And that it's like, well. Yeah, well, why would I care about the national? The civic identity is stronger than the national identity, and I was like,
wow,
that is odd. That is kind of odd.
Unusual.
Whereas because they do also kind of consider themselves, when you think of Scotland, sometimes people outside it, sometimes they'll think of like Highlands and stuff like that, but people would also think about, well, the people are maybe more like Glaswegians, friendly, welcoming, blah blah blah. But there's maybe like an old sort of view of Scotland and Scottish people, and maybe a sort of newer version, which is, or you go through and go to Glasgow and there's shops and stuff, and have a big night out and things, and people are really fun and welcoming. But I'm like, but most of Scotland is remote. There's nothing. There's nothing there. There's not a fucking enormous Victoria's Secret. That's not most of Scotland. No. This is not what Scotland is like.
Really
isn't. There's fuck all.
But
that thing of like most of Scotland is not like this. So you cannot. So for you to put yourself forward as the quintessential Scottish place identity, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at with these conversations, that all these places that people are from are valid.
Oh yeah.
And you're very lucky, to be honest, to have been born in a place where all your family is, but there are opportunities in the area that you've wanted to work in, whereas I mean, there's only,
if you want to do comedy, there's only like 2 places in this whole country where you can live and progress, and there's, maybe that's not true anymore. I think with social media now, you could maybe I do know of, but even thinking of these people who are up in Aberdeen and they've got a I'm not going to say many names, but they've got a kind of I speak broch, and
careful.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I speak Doric.
The Doric and
the broch is a name for Fraserburgh, but where they do speak Doric. But in Aberdeenshire,
so you could be a Fraserburian, Doric speaking
Stand-up?
Brock
Oh, right.
person,
Uh-huh.
a Brock Lesnar. You could be up there, and that could be the name of your first show. And you could do TikToks about that. Everybody become famous in the area and do stand-up, but you wouldn't have you wouldn't have Jesper for 5 years to be shite as you want to be to figure your voice out. You know what I mean? You only really have that if you're. I guess it's a big chunk of the population, but in the area round about Glasgow or the area round about Edinburgh, So there's, I do think I'm very, very lucky, and very lucky just to be in a country that speaks English, because you can't really do stand up in other languages.
Yeah.
You can, people have done it,
Yeah.
but limited in your, it's brilliant speaking English.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to do this particular art form.
Yeah. So that's what I think that. Yeah, your Glasgow is a bit sort of grotty. It's a bit grottier. I think that's fair to.
Mark's like a Seinfeld type guy, where he's like, here's something interesting I've noticed about language. Have you seen this? Even stuff about like political stuff, like about he's got a joke about trans people, he's got a joke about pronouns, but it's always about the way language is different. Whereas I'm not really as interested in language.
You're more about.
interested.
You're more like.
You're
more like.
I was threatened by a person recently. That's most of my stuff.
You're more like, I saw this thing.
You need to tell you about it.
And it's kind of that an old bent over woman or something like that. And it's quite visual. It's quite visual actually.
Yeah.
Your stuff, but that's kind of what I
the sadness of things is what
it's
I'm
kind of like
in.
maybe sort of you'd be walking down like Hope Street or something you'd maybe see on Hope Street, and you'd be like, oh, I'm not looking at that because it's I'm just glad that that's not in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. So and then you moved to the West End, and you've lived to the West End. And do you feel? And you were joking about somebody saying, "Oh, this Costa sipping Ponce." Do you feel like you've betrayed your roots?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You're like, I thought this was a puff piece. whoa.
This is a puff piece.
No, it is a puff piece.
Yeah, it's a puff piece. No, it's a bit more
than
than
a puff piece. It's a puff piece podcast. I'm recording a puff piece.
It's a PPP. See.
So you
and I do to an extent, but what I've noticed is that my area at Partick, that's not it's my bit. I've been there long enough that it's my bit now, as far as I'm concerned. And also, it's a working class area next to a middle class area, as far as I'm concerned.
Now you're stopping a young boy going, "Are you listening to Velvet Underground?" He's a noise cancelling, you fucking beast. Get away from me.
Get away from me. You big pedo.
How'd you know?
No.
No, I didn't connect.
I just wanted.
I'm an eternal boy myself.
I've got eternal boyhood. Excuse me, I can't be a pedo. I have eternal boyhood.
That's what Michael Jackson said.
Your Honour.
Yeah. No, you're cutting about your new bit.
So now, to me, it's like, we can't gentrify a working class area. I've just shifted across. I guess you could say, what is my relationship to capital? Are you a working class person? Do you work for someone else? Do you own the rights to the means of production, etc.? I'm an artist, so I'm a creative person, so that's kind of not really part of working class, middle class. It's a different thing, I think. What was the question again?
Do you think that you've
sold myself out?
Yeah.
Not really, because I live right across the road from the place I worked when I was a teenager, and I always used to look out and go, I'd love to live there. I think just because I was lazy, and I thought, well, it would be easier to get here if I lived here. If I lived across the road, I could get to work easier. But also I thought, what would it be like to live here? And there are people who listen to the Velvet Underground and stuff like that.
It's a very it's a very narrow-minded thing to be like you're either betraying yourself without having to want things for yourself.
You really need to drive to live where I grew up, and I don't drive.
Yeah.
You know, and my dad doesn't drive either, so that's very difficult for him. You know what I mean? So sometimes I think, oh, maybe I could get a car and then move back home, and you could have a garden. You know, that's the reasons why people move to places like where I grew up. Well, we want to have a garden. You know, if I had kids, maybe I would want to move back to where I grew up. But really, I love Partick's like a really good mix of, you know, speciality coffee shops, and like my last place, I lived across the road from this guy who was like an MMA fighter in Partick, and he was drunk all the time, and he was on coke all the time. He'd be up till genuinely 11 in the morning. He'd be up till screaming about Rangers. You know, he'd be like, we are the people of Rangers, and he would just do that on coke with blood coming out his head for hours, you know, till 11 in the morning. And I got pretty fed up with that. To the point where one night I was still smoking at the time, and I was out and I couldn't hear him, but then I heard him from a different direction, and it was raining. It was pissing down rain, and he came around the corner. His shirt was all ripped, and I'd never really seen him before, but I was like, this is the guy, because he sounded like him, and he had blood coming out his face, and like shirt was ripped, and he was just going, wow. And he was like, whoa. And I was like, yeah, I can't believe I did this. I went, excuse me. Are you that guy who lives at that? He went, who the fuck are you? And I was like, oh, I'm the guy who lives across the road for you. I was just wondering if you could keep it down, because you've really been up really late at night, and you're really loud. And he went, do you like UFC? And I was like, what? And he was like, you like UFC? I Khabib Nurmagomedov. You heard of him? Khabib. Have you heard of him? Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's like a Muslim MMA fighter. He's really good. He's like, that's what I do. I'm an MMA fighter. Kind of amateur level, I get an occasional fight, right? And that's what I like to do. Do you like MMA? I was like, yeah, I like it. Well, see, the thing is, I'm a cage fighter, and it's like, see when I'm getting ready for a fight, I don't do coke, I don't drink or anything. It's just get ready for the fight, you know, focus. But see, after the fight, I just want to stay up all night. Fight, shout, drink, take coke. So, as much as I respect you for asking me to be quiet, I'm not going to do it. So the idea that I would be betraying my roots by like sharing a life with this kid, you know what I mean? It's such a crazy place. There's a lot of social housing. There's a lot of
Park is wild.
People, yeah. Partick's an absolutely. I mean, well, so we're in Govan. It's a wild place itself. The bridge is going to open up. We can exchange mentalness, but you know,
exchange different types of mentalness. Yeah,
you know, and the place I'm living just now, I love it. There's a big window I've got.
Oh.
And you get a big window here yourself. But this is this is a shorter room. It's a 1970s ex-social housing, I believe.
Yours?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And it's much smaller. I love the high ceiling, but not to criticise the room I'm in. This is a great room, but hard to heat. Hard to heat. Admit it?
Yes.
Hard to heat a tall ceiling. This is much shorter. And there's a window, and there's nobody across the road from me. The other thing, this MMA fighter, his girlfriend would always smoke out. The windows would open all the time, and she would lean out. She wouldn't wear a top. Her breasts would be out, and she had a neck tattoo, and she was always smoking. I'd go, hey, fuck lady. So, I mean, my neighbours just now are absolutely lovely. Great. You know, but it's not. I'm not living with fucking bohemians, man.
No.
You know, it's old people who are dying.
Yeah.
Which, as we know, I love.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to ask you about, I mean, I didn't want to, I think I'm not that interested in talking to you about like going to uni and stuff like that, because you kind of like covered that, and that being exposed to Actually,
Well, it was wild because I was living in student accommodation and I'd never lived away from my mum and dad before, and I was living with a Russian guy and 2 gym dudes who just loved going to the gym and were in the boxing club, and they would fight each other and stuff, and the flat was always full of Russian people. He was a drug dealer, this guy, and the flat was just full of Russian dudes, high as fuck.
And you're studying journalism.
I studied journalism.
And you're like, yeah, my year of living with a Russian drug dealer.
Yeah, he was lovely. He was kind of a Nazi as well.
That sounds horrible, because I imagine you as like kind of a indoorsy guy, with all due respect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've just left your childhood room with all your stuff and your little
a lot
thing.
of it through, but like sometimes I'd come home and I would go in my room and there was just like a Russian guy playing my guitar, his girlfriend, and I'd be like, "Come on,
hey!"
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
Do you know any songs? Could you play a song for us? I try to get to bed, you can't. Do you know Wonderwall?
You know
Wonderwall?
Wonderwall?
No, I don't know the chords. Could you look them up? You play it for me?
We want to watch you learn Wonderwall. Wow.
Yeah, so that was cool. But I'm realising as I get older that I'm a little bit stunted in my kind of mental and emotional development. You know, I would say right just now, like in the last year, I've started eating like vegetables and shit, you know, like fruit. In the last couple of years,
Vegetables like fruit.
vegetables and fruit plus fruit, and like definitely conversations I'm having with people about like my life and stuff. I feel like I'm like 5 years behind everybody else. So yeah, I do feel like I just wasn't ready to live with a Russian drug dealer and 2 kind of roided up crazy people.
I don't know who is, and that sounds like a nice sort of full circle thing of you living there, having worked there with your.
I think it's
with your
emotionally
dad.
unhealthy though, because I was talking to someone. One of my other friends is somebody who's
Well, like you're trying to redo your childhood.
Yeah.
No.
must
no.
be. I know this guy who's bought a flat.
That's what I'm saying. It's
and
not living. It's not redoing it. It's living out your.
I think that's healthy.
What, living out your ambitions?
Your ambitions. I think it's shite to live out your ambitions because you know your dreams that you had growing up. Why am I living to impress this fucking specky virgin for the East End of Glasgow? Like, why do I care what he thinks? And all of a sudden, I've got his dream job, his dream flat. It's embarrassing. I should be living out my current dreams.
It's a real half buried egg situation, isn't it? The egg that's out poking out of the ground is that's your ambitions, and you living out your childhood ambitions, and you know, when you hurt me, this is who you're hurting, and we're the same person. You know, you're the same person as you have always been.
Sure.
But then the half egg which is buried is you stunted little freak. You need to grow up and.
Well, you just wish you had better dreams when your dreams come true.
But I don't. I think both things are. both things are
true.
Both things are true, depending on which day of the week you ask yourself.
Yeah, big time.
I ask every guest like two things. The first would be like, what is a home truth to you about Glasgow? But I think we kind of maybe touched upon that about Glasgow being.
Glasgow, just want to clarify, an absolutely amazing city, post-industrial gem. You know, I love showing people around. I love taking them to my favourite parks and museums, and it's stunning. And there's like, the people are brilliant, but at the same time, it's a wee bit shite, you know. And that's life. Things are shite, and things are good, and you need to take the good with the shite. And I just wish more people were like, hey, you can't fucking talk about Glasgow. Yeah, I wish you would. I mean, you know, there are MMA fighters with blood coming out of their face, screaming about Rangers all the time. Like, I live right next to the route of the Orange Walk, and I'm not a Celtic fan, not a Rangers fan, but it's annoying.
You're an Aberdeen fan.
I'm a Don. I'm a wee terry cloth Don, as I say.
And it gets your goat.
It gets my goat.
You're just out of the bath. And you're like,
I'm toweling myself off, talking up, cloud
Yeah.
of talc.
can you keep it down? And then somebody goes, you know what? I really respect you saying that to me, but no. Boom, boom, boom.
Did you see the clip of the Orange Walk and they're dressed like Mario and Luigi?
No.
I can't. We don't have time.
We
to get
don't
into
have time. We do not
Um,
have time for
that to
that.
understand that.
But
But the thing
I
about
think you've
Glasgow
maybe
is,
captured
yeah,
the sentiment in our conversation already.
you need to acknowledge the reality of the situation. You can't shortbread down it, and you can't shite on it.
No.
You need to love where you're from, and you need to hate where you're from. And
Yeah.
I think you can't hate anything without loving it. I don't think you can love something without hating it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Like I was thinking that about, you know, in the sort of Edinburgh versus Glasgow conversation, that I go to Edinburgh sometimes and I'm like, right, I need to fucking get in, do what I'm doing, and get out. Get me back to Glasgow, where it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, it should be that I should get into Glasgow, do what I'm doing, and get back out. Whereas the beautiful historic city that is so embracing of tourists, I'm like, oh, I need to. It's like a rat run.
Paul
Get me
F.
back
Tompkins
to the
has
place
a
that
funny
is.
thing about it, where he's like an LA guy, but he lived in New York, and it's funny we were saying Glasgow's like New York, because it is, because he says this bit where he's like, people from New York they don't realise that the things that you like about other places are for different reasons. They're like, so you're in LA and you don't want to get a pizza at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, in New York you can have Chinese food anytime. It's like, oh, you're somewhere else though. Do you know what I mean? There's other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with, you know, Edinburgh. You need to enjoy the things about Edinburgh. Like Edinburgh is there's so much stuff about Edinburgh that's better than Glasgow. And you know, I'll probably get hate for if anybody hears this. You know, they'll say you're an evil bastard for saying that. But the pizza scene's better. The coffee scene's better. The ice cream scene's better. Like, we have nothing like Mary's Milk Bar here. We have nothing like Ratzo's. What are those arancini? You know, deep fried arancini. So much you need to love the stuff through there for what it is, and the views and stuff. You could not like the view. You just need to.
They're their own cities with their own merit and
And Aberdeen's the
identities.
same, you know. You need to find something about Aberdeen that you love.
And
I love
the sea. The sea is there, and genuinely, I do miss seeing the sea on a regular basis, which I would see once a week.
Yeah, no,
which
the sea is
is
class. The sea is class.
It's there's something, and I'm not like this way inclined to talk in like a Rogan-esque way about like Cape Town, but there is something about like seeing the
ocean.
end of the land that's like, that's like, it's weird, reassuring, makes you like think about your like insignificance, that it helps. So what would be a home comfort? And that could be something from your childhood. It could be something, what is something really comforting to you?
There's a sandwich shop
Right
near
now.
my primary school called the Upper Crust, and it's not the upper crust that you'll get in your Euston stations or, you know, your central stations, where it's like a boulangerie. Upper Crust is it's a sandwich shop, and they have a baguette in there. It's called 250. And maybe
Called
Yeah.
250.
yeah, that's the name of the sandwich. And I assumed this was had all around the world. Turns out it's only
So you're in panic, and you want a 250
You got
at
a
3
250
o'clock in the morning.
You gotta go back to Gara Hill. So it's in Gara Hill. It's at a roundabout. There's a tanning shop. There's a newsagents, and there's a sandwich shop. I think there's maybe a like a kind of funeral care bit as well. I've never had to use that service, that particular one. But the Upper Crust, they get 250, and I assumed wrongly that you could go into any sandwich shop in the country and get a 250. It's a baguette. The thing is, you can get a £2, a 2.25, and a 2.50. Nobody ever calls the other ones that though. And it's the more money, the more chicken. So it's like spicy chicken mayonnaise, chicken tikka mayonnaise, and a baguette, and a microwave to make it hot, and then over the top chili powder over the top. And I remember my dad saying stuff to me like, I never had a curry until I was 21. I never had pizza pasta until I was 18. Stuff like that. I don't think I had spice until I had a 250 when I was like 16.
Wow.
I don't think I tasted, other than like maybe in a pepperoni, a microwavable pepperoni pizza or something. You know, my family would need, my granny and my granddad, fish cakes, fish fingers, maybe a pizza, ravioli for a tin, you know. But that it was hot. I remember being like, whoa. And you can I've seen people go, give me a £3. And it's like, they go, what, really? And they go, £3. And that just means way, like, till it's like unable to eat it in the manner of a sandwich, because it's like so spilling out.
Kind of like how Chicagoans talk about hot dogs and stuff. Yeah, okay.
So much stuff on it, you couldn't even eat it. And I just, you can't get it anywhere else. And it's amazing. I think about it all the time. I always go, I'd love a 250. The thing is, you would have it with an iron brew, right? And like, do you know how it makes you burp iron brew? There's something about the 250 where the taste and smell of the burp were so like the actual process of eating it, where you would burp and you go, whoa. It was such an intense, spicy.
Is it like I never ever had anybody to do this to me because I'd never had like a cool or sexy childhood. But you know, when somebody would like do a blowback,
yeah, the blowback, yeah.
You know what I mean? Is it kind of?
It's like blowback. It's like your ass blowback on yourself, your stomach giving yourself a blowback of spicy powder. 250. A microwaved baguette.
Why?
I really, I love it, honestly.
When was the last time you had one?
Got about like 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I go back more often than that, but not during the day. Oh, maybe I think I got a haircut about 5 years ago, and I was
just walk into the barber and say, "Give me a 250, give me a 250."
Give me a 2 at the back sides and a 50 on top.
That's great.
And I remember I was like, my dad's my hairdresser, my dad's a hairdresser, and I got my hair cut. He's doesn't have a shop in Partick anymore. He has a shop in Baillieston. And yeah, walking back to the train station, and it was early enough because my dad could only fit me in early. I like a haircut at the end of the day, but it could make it happen. And I got a 250, and like all the people who worked there, like it was just like the woman who ran it knew me well enough that if it was raining and she was driving her kids to work, she'd stop and let me jump in the car, you know.
Wow.
To go, hey, you wanna? And I don't know. It's just, I think that I get very nostalgic about this sandwich, you know. It's beautiful. But
that's incredible.
You can't do, I guess you could do stand up about it, but like, yeah, I think it'd be better to do like a storytelling show about it, about the sandwich. Because it's the kind of the limitations of the form. I think with stand up, Norm Macdonald talks about it, where it's like stand up is not art, it's like a craft. And I always take that to mean like, it's more like a haircut than it is a painting stand up. You're given a haircut to 100 people, to 1,000 people at once, and it kind of has to work for all of them. And there's craft, and there's like, you could do interesting things with a haircut. You can dye it certain colours, and you can do, my dad won a trophy for a haircut he gave where he made a woman's head look like a fish. You know, and then in the 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s. But at the end of the day, it was a haircut, and it's not art.
But not everybody's wanting that.
Not everybody wants a fish. Most people want a short backside.
Yeah. And
you kind of need to give people, whether it's, it's a craft. There's a beauty to craft, but you look at a painting and you go, whoa, everybody who looks at it can have obviously it's a painting of like a jungle or something, but it's like, people can go, oh, where is this? And everybody can have a different, you can't really do that with stand-up. Everybody kind of has to laugh at the same time.
Yeah.
But I just love it. That's what I like about podcasting as well, is you can kind of take things a wee bit easier and chill out, and it's a very relaxing thing.
Yeah,
to listen to.
So you're not doing a full run at the Fringe this year.
3 shows.
3 shows.
And they've sold out, so there's no point plugging.
Brilliant.
But come and see me in Aberdeen.
And
Aberdeen, Fort William, other place, Bristol, Southampton, Dublin, Belfast.
Dundee.
We know these cities better than we know our own grandmothers' names. Dundee, I'm doing Dundee,
You
but
did
one of
2
them
shows
sold
in
out.
Dundee.
Yeah, there's now an extra show being added, which I wonder if there will be demand for. But
And and this is like the second leg of a tour of your show, Scary Times.
24,
Scary
as I'm
Ti-
calling it.
Yeah, Scary Times 24.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
about Glasgow and Edinburgh. So if you like this chat, you probably dig it.
Go and see the show, and you can watch your special. Oh no!
You can check out my hour-long comedy special produced by 800 Pound Gorilla. Oh no, recorded at Monkey Barrel Comedy in Edinburgh. The next one will be recorded in Glasgow, but I love doing it in Edinburgh. Yeah, check that out. And also, I've got a podcast. Here Comes the Guillotine. So check that out. Did I do anything
It's
else?
great. It's great, that podcast.
Thanks very
I love
much.
it. I find it very, very comforting.
Just
I
three
think
cunts talking
especially
shite.
especially during like the election week, and I found it as it's harder and harder to feel like it's just nice to get a little bit of like radical
There's
thinking.
no voice. Really, is there?
in your head once a week, but it is equally lighthearted and deeply grim. But it's all in equal measure.
I love doing it, but it's like pretty crazy.
Yeah,
podcast.
sometimes I think you would. Yeah, I can imagine you'd come out of there and you'd just be like, "All right, the sun's shining, and we've just been talking about serial killers and MPs
Pedos.
that haven't been in the paper for 30 years." But yeah, it's great, and all the Enjoying albums are still available for people to.
Yeah, I know.
watch
I think
and
we're
listen
going to try and
which is
get
great.
the old Patreon exclusive ones. We're going to try and put them out for people to check it because Patreon doesn't exist anymore. There's like 50 hours, probably like 30 hours of content, 30 hours of podcasts that people don't have any access to, can't even get access to. So it might be good to get them out. And I think we're going to do a year-end albums of the year at the end of the year.
Fantastic.
I think, yeah.
Great.
But
Thanks so
right
much
now-
again
Thank you.
for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I'm loving it, man. This has been